African American women made enormous contributions to the advancement and culture of the West. One of these trailblazing women was Bridget Biddy Mason. She was born into slavery on August 15, 1818, with the name Bridget without a surname, and was later nicknamed Biddy. Her final owners, Robert and Rebecca Smith, a Mormon couple, were given Biddy as a wedding present. Like many enslaved people, she was forcibly taken from her family and sold numerous times. In 1847, Smith moved his entire household, including Biddy, to the west in a 300-wagon caravan. Biddy walked 2,000 miles behind the caravan from Mississippi to Utah. It took 7 months. She was responsible for setting up and breaking down the camp, cooking, herding the cattle, and serving as a midwife. In addition, she cared for her own 3 daughters, a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a newborn whom she carried on her back. A Mormon community was established in what eventually would become Salt Lake City, Utah. 3 years later, Smith moved his family again. This time they headed for San Bernardino, California in search of gold. This trip was tough for Biddy once again. California was a free state, and Biddy was legally free the moment she entered the state, but her owner, Smith, kept her from learning of her right to freedom for 5 years. Once Biddy found out, she petitioned the court for freedom for herself and her children. Despite the obstacles and the fact that she was not allowed to testify in open court, but in Judge Benjamin Hayes' chambers, she won freedom for her family and 13 members of her extended family. She moved from the campsite to the home of the Owens family. This act set up events that helped to change Biddy's life in a positive way. 1 month after attaining her freedom, she saved Judge Hayes' little boy from being trampled under a horse and buggy. She also took the surname Mason, which was the middle name of Amazon Lyman, who was the mayor of San Bernardino and a Mormon apostle. Incidentally, San Bernardino was where Joan and I lived and taught for over 20 years, and sadly, we had absolutely no idea about this part of our history. Once free, Biddy moved her family to Los Angeles. There she met Dr. John Griffin, one of the first formally trained doctors in Southern California, and he was also the brother-in-law of Judge Hayes. Dr. Griffin was so impressed with Biddy's work that he hired her to work with him as a nurse and midwife for $2.50 per day. She served a wide range of patients and helped anyone who needed her assistance. She gained a reputation as an innovative and expert healer and midwife. She delivered hundreds of babies in Los Angeles and came to be known as Auntie Biddy. She was often seen carrying her big black bag, which held her necessary tools, but also her papers from Judge Hayes, which affirmed her freedom. For 10 years, Biddy saved what she could from her wages, and with the encouragement of the Owens family and Dr. Griffin to invest, she was able in 1866 to purchase a house at 331 Spring Street in Los Angeles for $250. She was one of the first black women of her time to own land in Los Angeles. She opened her home to the poor, hungry, and homeless. She lived the Bible verse that says in James 2:17, "So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless." Biddy and a small group of men and women founded the Los Angeles First African Methodist Episcopal Church, which initially met in her home. Biddy donated $500 to start the church, granted the land at Azusa and San Pedro to build the original location of the church in 1872, and paid the taxes, expenses, and the ministers. With her savings, Biddy was able to purchase large amounts of real estate, which led to the building of schools, grocery stores, daycare centers, and churches. At the time of Biddy's death in her home on January 15, 1891, Biddy was one of the richest women in Los Angeles, amassing a fortune of $300,000, which would equal about $8.5 million today. On March 27, 1988, 3,000 citizens gathered to honor the many contributions Biddy Mason made to Los Angeles. A beautiful tombstone was unveiled to mark her gravesite. The Biddy Mason Memorial Park sits on the site of her original homestead at 333 South Spring Street in Los Angeles. Biddy Mason Time and Place is an 80-foot-long concrete wall. It tells Bridget's story using illustrated impressions and text and images, beginning with Biddy Mason, born a slave, and concluding with Los Angeles mourns and reveres Grandma Mason. Bridget Biddy Mason, who was blessed to be a blessing, said, and I quote, "If you hold your hand closed, nothing good can come in. The open hand is blessed, for it gives abundance, even as it receives." Close quote. Thank you for not allowing your early life to dampen your enthusiasm for helping others. And as Pastor Cousins said in a recent sermon, finding the Jesus in others. Thank you.